SAGA Podcast.
And welcome back to SAGA, the Space Arena Ground Arena podcast, where we cover Star Wars Unlimited from the ground up into space. I'm Mr. Ben, and I'm joined by BananaCrapshoot. How do you feel here at the end of 2023, man?
How do I feel at the end of 2023? Well, first, to understand the end of 2023, we have to look at the beginning of 2023, where we didn't know anything about a Star Wars card game coming. And now we know a lot about a Star Wars card game coming, so I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing?
It's kind of nice that the winter weather only comes a little bit at a time. It's like 27 degrees when I get up, and then it's 70 by the time I get off work. So that's kind of nice, not having to deal with a whole day of winter weather yet, but I know it's coming. Like it's lurking in January, ready to pounce.
Yeah, we haven't had to do any snow removal yet at any of the schools, but I know it's coming, so.
Yeah. Yeah, we got a dusting, but it wasn't serious. And I don't know, I did professional snow removal for years. Like my folks ran a snowplow business, so like as soon as I got my driver's license, it was like, oh, it's a weekend, you have to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning and go plow snow for 5 hours. I'm glad I don't do that anymore.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I do it, right? So I get it. It's not the most enjoyable or fun, but it needs to be done, so.
Yeah, somebody has to. You play anything fun over these last couple weeks since we last talked?
Bunch of unlimited proxy decks, force table. That's pretty much it. Just lots of unlimited. You? What have you been up to?
Well, I hit this point, so I don't normally like playing card games at my computer. Like if I'm going to sit down at my PC, I can grab a controller, I can play mouse and keyboard, do something a little more intense, a little more robust of an experience. But this DC Dual Force really captured my attention and captivated me over these last couple months. And I've been tolerating playing it on my PC, but the spell finally broke. And I ended up saying, man, I want to put something on the TV, kind of like chill. I want a card game to play on my phone. And I'm almost embarrassed to admit this, but I discovered this card game uh, on the Android store called Cards, like with a K, but just Cards. And I've played Hearthstone, I've played so many different games, and I've never really felt embarrassed of the subject matter until this one. It's a World War II card game, and is there
Interesting.
anything more like cliche and cringe than like a middle-aged dad who's like a little too interested in World War II, you know? It has this really cool mechanic where each player has a base, right? And when you play cards, you play them to the support row, which is where the base is. And then you can spend recruit points to either put cards into play or take actions like attacks or move them. And once you move up from the support row, it creates the front. And other cards, enemy cards, can't move into the front unless they kill all your stuff. So there's this sort of like front row that only exists for one team at a time that creates kind of a really cool dynamic. And I'm really enjoying the card game. But again, like I'll talk about Wizard Poker, I'll talk about Star Wars Unlimited all day long, but there's something that just makes me feel very self-conscious being into a World War II card game. Right along with the socks I wear with my sandals,
There you go. Yeah.
And my jokes that are really just clumsy puns. I've moved into my dad-shaped face.
You got the khaki cargo shorts with the white Nikes and the white crew socks, right?
Yeah, there you go. So that's been a bunch of fun. And my kid has gotten extremely into playing Magic and playing Commander over the last couple of weeks, which has been pretty fun. I got into Magic when I was around his age, so seeing the bug also bite him. Now he's played, for me, Magic was my first collectible card game, or TCG rather. He's played several, but it's still like once it got its hooks into him, it's so fun to watch that sort of blossom, and I can't wait until Star Wars Unlimited comes out and we can actually like crack some packs. Because with Magic, we're just playing with Commander precons and the single here and there. We're not. No, I'm not diving back into that game. We're
Has it?
saving our pack crack money first. Woo.
I remember when we recorded last, you said that that Magic thing kind of started because you were, visiting friends or something, and he was trying to say how much better Versus system is than Magic. Has that tune changed for him at all, or does he still feel that way?
He still really does not like the non-games that Magic can produce. Whether it's I don't draw any lands, or I draw only lands, or he's the one who's getting flooded or screwed. Like he very quickly has identified, like, hey, this is a flaw in an otherwise really fun game, and these other games that we play don't have this flaw. Wow, that
Yeah,
is so. But now,
most
how much
games
of that is
since
like
Magic.
him as a kid coming up with this on his own, and how much of it is him just sort of like hearing me talk about these things all the time because I never shut up? I don't know. You know what I mean? I don't want to be one of those parents who like feeds my kids lines of dialogue and then goes, "Oh, how cute that they repeated the thing they hear me say all the time." So grain of salt with all this.
Right. Well, I mean, most card games since Magic have most of them have made the decision, hey, we're gonna fix the one thing that Magic really, didn't do well, which is their resource system. So, um,
It's the biggest flaw in the game. I think even people who are diehard, like the kind of players who only play Magic, would acknowledge that like the percentage of non-games due to the resource system is like a very fair critique.
all right, do you wanna do card reveals first, or do you want to do the our other topic we're gonna hit tonight first?
Uh, we can hop into your other topic.
Okay.
I'm down for jumping in not totally 100% prepared.
Okay. So, for this, we are gonna do some like three predictions for Star Wars Unlimited in 2024 as we're looking forward to the new year. So, um, I'll let you go first. What is your first prediction for Star Wars Unlimited in 2024?
All right. So when you messaged this topic idea to me literally a handful of hours ago, I
Mm-hmm.
went, "Oh, I'm gonna really need to focus on this and come up with something good." And the very first thing that came to mind is a take that I may be called naive for a few months from now. We look at what happened with Lorcana, and I think even people who are huge fans, huge defenders of the game, should be able to acknowledge that the release has been very rocky. I guess in Europe it's a lot smoother, but at least here in the US, it's been a very rough rollout. Now, there's always a lot more ways to get something wrong than to get it right, but I'm going to take the perhaps the naive approach, and I'm going to predict that we are able to see a global launch that in its totality we can call a success. I'm not saying there won't be challenges, I'm not saying there won't be problems, and I'm deliberately not using the word simultaneous, but I'm saying there will be a global launch roughly in a close period of time. Maybe not exactly simultaneous, but very close. And despite whatever challenges present themselves, once we all get through it, we're going to look back and go like, man, that was handled really well. That's my prediction.
I like it. I guess as a back and forth aspect to this, um, I will agree that I think that is a thing that'll happen. Um, I think even
You
like
did,
being at
was your
PAX.
first prediction going to be that it was going to be a dumpster fire?
No, no. So, but like, like they've said all the right things so far. They've been planning this global release since the beginning. Um, they had that in mind about getting that right from the day they just started working on it. They had marketing and gamegenic and everything. Everybody's been working together since the beginning of the creation process of this game. Right? Everyone's been involved the whole time, which is very new for FFG to have all the departments and different layers involved from the start. So everyone's super invested, including Asmodee. Asmodee has never been more supportive or excited for an FFG game as they are for Star Wars Unlimited. So that with like talking to them at PAX Unplugged, and it's like, hey, like how much product, like what do you guys, any insight on like if we're gonna be able to get product, or is it gonna be like Lorcana? And they just kind of like look over at the Lorcana section, like, no, we're not gonna have that problem. They're very confident that they're gonna be fine. So I think I'll agree with your first prediction. My first prediction is that all 3 sets that are supposed to release in 2024 will release in 2020. I think they've planned this out. They have their processes figured out, and they're going to nail the releases on time like they're planning to. So that's my first one.
I feel like you came at what I said and treated it like we were on stage at an improv, and you were like, yes, and they're going to continue that prediction for the whole year.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And I hope that's true.
I hope so too. I mean, like Final Fantasy gets their 3 sets every year, right? I think 3 sets is a good pace, right? So like you have stuff like the Bandai games, like that are releasing 4 sets plus other products like every year, and it feels like it just feels so fast. And like for Final Fantasy, I feel like you have time to really work through the meta and the cards, and you kind of see the shift, right, where you got aggro, like, and then you get the mid range and you get control decks later, and then you find new stuff and new combos as the sets go because you have time to play through that. Whereas I feel like those other games, they just release stuff so fast that I think it's almost too much. Like any Bandai game almost has too much product to buy. Whereas I feel like Final Fantasy, those 3 sets a year, I feel like is a really good pace, and it's easy. I feel like it's easier to keep up with. So I think, and also from a printing standpoint, right, 3 sets a year is easier to hit your landmark than 4. So I think they can do it.
Yeah, I'm willing to concede that a more rapid tempo, a new set every quarter, essentially changing the available card pool and shaking things up with that degree of frequency, like as a player who enjoys solving novel puzzles, I can see the appeal. And in a game like, Hearthstone or a digital game where I don't have stacks and stacks of cardboard that become worthless, every 3 months, collecting in I think that's a better fit. With a collectible card game, in the sense of there's going to be Star Wars people, there's going to be people who buy this game just because they want the cards in their binder. Those people, I think, are going to appreciate 3 sets a year. Maybe that's not quite the. I can see the power gamer who wants to play 100 reps of every deck, getting burned out, being like, I want a faster cadence. So I can kind of identify with that. But, as we've well established, I'm a middle-aged person with responsibilities. I'm cool with 3 sets a year.
Yeah.
But I don't need them faster than that. If I get bored with the meta, I can play one of the many other games that I also deeply love.
It's the thing about players like us where it's not just one, right? There's usually like, you don't want to see what the top of my dresser looks like. It is just boxes of games and cards stacked on top of each other all over the place.
Like 15 decks in like varying states of completion.
Yeah, I got versus decks over here. First I have like Marvel Champion stuff, and then on top of that I have like the Fallout board game, and then I have like Keyforge stuff, and then I got my Versus stuff and Final Fantasy over here, and then there's Digimon over here because my 8-year-old wanted to learn Digimon, so we've been playing that, and then like Pokemon stuff over here because he likes playing that, so it's like this. Then I have some One Piece decks and My Hero decks. Like it's nonstop, dude.
I like having a game collection that, like, I don't mind not having every card or, not having every cool expansion or Kickstarter exclusive. I'm fine with that. But so I don't need depth, but I want like a maybe a shallow but large circuit like pool. Like I want to have a library. If somebody comes over and they want to play a zombie game, I want to be able to pull one out. If somebody wants to be able to play like whatever my guest would want to play, I want to have at least one example of that on the shelf where I've got this like large variety, if maybe not every single expansion for every single one of those games.
That's fair.
Although I say that and I have like every unmatched character and every dice thrown hero.
Yeah, see, if I go in on a Kickstarter, I'm the sucker that I like the things, So if there's a deluxe, like that's probably the route I'm going, or an
I mean, there's a
all-in.
joy in the like curation of things, like sleeving the cards, like putting them into the binder, just so, and then thumbing through the binder and admiring the handiwork. Like it all feeds together into this cardboard addiction of mine.
Yeah. All right, what's your
Okay,
second?
okay. Second prediction. Um, I don't think it will happen right away, but I think before set two, within the set one meta, eventually Thrawn will be considered to be the strongest leader.
Ooh. Hold on. I want you to say that again for the people in the back.
So prior to, I don't think it'll happen right away because aggro is always kind of like strongest out of the gate. But before set two releases, I think within the set one meta, the consensus is going to be that in the hands of a skilled pilot, Thrawn is the strongest leader. I don't know if that was approving or disapproving. I don't speak
Uh,
Wookiee.
I that is a bold prediction. I can't get behind that one. I don't agree with that one because one of mine is about the best set one leader. Um,
Okay, well, what is your contention?
my contention is that Boba Fett is the best set one leader. Even though we still have three we haven't seen, I'm going out there. We have three leaders we don't know what they are yet. Boba Fett, I feel like. Well, he's my dude. He's my favorite leader. That's my favorite tech to play is Boba Fett with aggression. But
Seems very strong. I'm not gonna crap on Boba Fett.
I don't know. I think Thrawn needs more support. But again, we've seen like 70% of the cards, so the support could be there. In the games I've played with him, he's just been like a little slow. I don't know, but I mean,
I
I
mean,
could definitely
one might say skill issue.
could be
I mean,
definitely.
I did bake that into my prediction, right?
Yeah.
No, that's a fair point. Trixie, sort of control-y, those types of strategies always benefit as you get more toys. So I definitely think he's going to get stronger over time. And I am going out on a little bit of a limb because, like every card game ever, set one is generally aggro dominated. But I
Hmm.
wanted to throw a spicy meatball in there too. So I'm gonna
Yeah.
ride with my Thrawn control deck dominating the set one meta.
There you go. So like by the time store showdowns come around for set one, right? You're gonna be taking Thrawn.
Yep. People are gonna be crying to get those yellow discard cards banned. It's coming.
Um, we look forward to the Cunning Thrawn deck tech video in the future. My second prediction ties into yours about Boba Fett. So, um, yeah, I think Boba Fett will be the set one leader. His ability to ready resources to allow you to do more things than you should be able to do on your turn, I think will benefit. And he's got the yellow package has a lot of tricks and he plays really well with aggression. So for me, it's Boba Fett. Not much of a limb, I don't think, and not as spicy as yours
It's a
for
strong
sure.
choice.
But he plays a good aggro to mid range. So for set one. All right, what's your third bold prediction for Star Wars Unlimited? in
So
2024.
you remember when I said we were going to jump into this not being totally prepared?
Mm-hmm.
uh, I ended up with those two right off
Okay.
the bat. And when I was trying to, well, the Thrawn one was a little harder. I was like, do I really want to commit this? When I was trying to come up with a third one, it I kept falling into these kind of like mealy mouthed traps of like really easy things to predict. Of like, well, because there's of the rarity distribution, we're not gonna have this kind boring stuff. So here's what I'm gonna do. I am gonna predict that this community is going to be a wholesome and non-toxic place when the game launches. And we are
I hope
not
so.
going to see people ripping the heads off of each other for asking rules questions. And whatever it was, basically I'm trying to predict that what we're building here is going to be like the anti-Lorcana and whatever's going on over there. I don't know what happened in that game. Uh, Thus far, I feel like I've had almost uniformly positive experiences with everybody I've interacted with in the SWU community. And even though we know we're going to get a gigantic influx of people, and some of their questions are going to be so silly and so obvious, I think we're going to handle it with grace and dignity as a community.
I hope so. There's definitely that I think on Facebook, it, I think Discord's going to be the place where that'll happen because that's a better medium for stuff like that. Like in the community Discord, there's a new player channel right there for new players to go, and if they have questions to ask, we have the rules channel. On Facebook, it's just this open thing. People ask, and then you get the people, oh, I'm sick of seeing this question every other week, and they or every week or every day, and that's where people get hammered. So I feel like Facebook isn't the best medium for like game communities. Like Discord's much better for that. So I think the Discord will be welcoming and open and non-toxic. You're always going to have those few players, right? You're always going to have those content creators ranking teams and individual players, right?
I don't want to get into any of that.
But I think Facebook will be the one where you get the toxic vibes. That's
I mean, there's always a few, like when you get into groups where we're talking about thousands of people, there's gonna be some jerks. Like
yeah,
I acknowledge that that's gonna happen, but
yeah. We're almost
I
at
think
2,000
having,
on the Discord.
yeah, like there's gonna be the occasional person who wants to get froggy and curse somebody out, but like by and large, I feel like the culture that's been engendered by the mods and the culture that's been enforced is one of being cool with each other. Like Bill and Ted said, let's all just be excellent to each other. And I predict that that's going to continue because we have a great foundation.
It's a good one. Um, I did have a third one written down, but now you're making me feel bad about it because it's kind of a layup. So, um,
Ooh, are we going to have some improv here after all?
yeah, yeah. So my third bold prediction for Star Wars Unlimited in 2024 is that Space Arena Ground Arena, us as a podcast, we will do these shows at some point live, as in people listening live while we record, and with people here
Okay.
chatting with us while we're recording, interacting live with the show. That's going to
I'm
be
down for a live show.
my third bold prediction. That's not Star Wars Unlimited specific. It's more Saga prediction, but it's tangential, right? So, um, yeah.
Speaking of saga specific stuff, I got a delivery to my house yesterday.
Oh yeah,
And I was able to try out my nice new Saga playmat while I played Commander with my boy before he went to bed. It was
yeah,
very nice.
yeah,
Appreciate that, man.
yeah. Um, I would have sent Dan one too, but he never gave me his address. So, and he's like in Europe for work or something. So, Yeah, they sent him overseas for something. So yeah.
Cool, I guess.
Yeah. So do you, how do you feel about the design of our version 1 Saga Space Arena Ground Arena
I'm very
playmat?
happy with it. I had two middle schoolers in my house when the package came, and they both thought it was very cool as well. So if it got four thumbs up from a couple of middle schoolers, then I think
Think it's all right.
yeah, man,
I
it
have
looks
some
really
ideas.
crisp.
Yeah, I was happy with how it came out, and then when I was at PAX, I had mine signed, so I don't know if I'll play on it because like Jeremy Zwern and Tyler Parrott, and then Josh Massey, the OP guy, and Xander, the community engagement guy, I had all of them sign it at PAX, so I don't know
You got to
if
take a
I'll.
picture of that and post it. Like, I don't think I've seen that.
All
That's
right,
awesome. I want to see that.
I'll take a picture. Maybe it'll be the thumbnail for this
All right.
video.
Now that we're done flexing on how cool your playmat is, do we have
Oh
do
yeah,
we have any more predictions, or are we going to talk about some cards?
let's talk about some cards. I'll
Okay.
hand the reins over to you for hot takes on cards. I thought about for an episode we go through all the cards that have been revealed from start to finish, all like 170 of them, and just thumb up, thumb down, no discussion, just straight up yes or no if we think it's good or not. But that would take forever. Um,
Kind of fun to do once they're all
yeah,
out to just speed go through.
like hot or not, just
Um,
hot, not, just pow, 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 pow. But we'll see.
yeah, maybe have like one person read them. Even that might make it take a long time. Like just going by the name and you have to react immediately. Like that sounds pretty fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So, speaking of reacting immediately to some cards, let's take a look at Outmaneuver. This is a 3-cost cunning event. Choose an arena. Exhaust each unit in that arena. Uh, yeah, it's a control tool. It's fine.
I feel like this is gonna find a home in sideboards more than main decks. Since it exhausts each unit, not just your opponent's units, like you're exhausting your own. So I feel like you're going to use this as a catch-up mechanic, right? You're falling behind. You don't have anything to answer. You're getting far behind. You play this, buy you some time to reset your board, kind of deal.
Good answer for when somebody deploys their leader. Just cool. Everybody's tired in that whole zone. We're done here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's fair costed. It's the kind of card that you would almost, even if you're not relying on drawing it, if you get to like a top cut situation where deck lists are revealed, this is the kind of card that you want your opponent thinking in their head, do they have it? How do I sequence this? Do I need to push these attacks through before I deploy so I don't get caught behind an outmaneuver? Um, it's not very flashy, it's not very exciting, but it's a decent control tool.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Wilderness Fighter, 3-cost, Vigilance affiliated ground unit. It's a 2/4 with shield. This feels like a draft card to me. What are your thoughts?
I think this card works with like Chewbacca, who wants to play cheap dudes and give them Sentinel, right? So this has the shield, so it'll stick around longer. Krennic likes blue cards with butts. Yeah, I think draft, but I think it will find spots in like possibly like a Krennic deck or Chewbacca deck.
Yeah, that's fair. A deck that cares about shields, like shield synergy, or that wants big butts to be able to like do ping damage to for extra effects. Yeah, again, this is like a functional card, but I'm like so not excited about it. It's whatever.
I mean, it isn't very exciting, but
No. It's not bad. I guess the art's cool.
art's cool. I mean, shields are pretty good. The 4 health is pretty decent. The shield on it though, if you
I
can't get
think
rid of the shield, I mean, it's a pain.
if it was like a 4/2 with shield, I think I'd be like a little more excited. Like the shield is kind of like doubling down on the best part of the card already. And that to attack, it's okay.
That's why you give it Sentinel with Chewbacca, and then you make it eat 2 attacks, right?
Yeah, that synergy would be good. I agree there. Okay, 2-cost Partisan Insurgent. This is a aggression affiliated ground unit. He's a 1/4. While you control another aggression unit, this unit gains raid 2. How do you feel about our insurgent here?
I don't know. When he was first revealed, I was pretty high on it. I just don't know if he makes it into decks. I think he'll be great. If you're playing a red, draft, if you're drafting red, um, being Rebel and Trooper, I think probably in like Leia decks, he's pretty solid. He'll see play in some Sabine decks probably. But I think some other cards have kind of pushed him out. But I mean, he's solid too he's effectively a 2-cost 3/4 on the swing. I mean, that's pretty good. So I think he's solid, but I think he'll find spots in decks, but I think he'll see more play in like draft and sealed.
If you get the 3/4, that is good. A 2-cost for a 3/4. And the hoop you have to jump through isn't that big, but I think they're going to be better aggression 2-drops. Maybe in a list where you're trying to play like a large variety of characters for some reason, like if there's eventually like a hate card that says like kill this unit and then search your opponent's deck for every copy of that unit, so you're trying to like diversify your unit pool to like dodge that kind of card, maybe. But I mean, I'm really reaching. He's not like terrible, but to me this feels like a draft card that you're almost never going to play in Constructed. To move on to a card that I think probably will see some play in Constructed, we have a 7-cost Luke Skywalker Vigilance and Heroism affiliated ground unit. He is a 6/7, Restore 3, and when played, give an enemy unit -3/-3 for the phase. If a friendly unit was defeated this phase, give an enemy unit -6/-6 instead. One thing I always say about big drops is they got to come down and they got to do something right away. They have to be impactful on the board immediately, because at turn 7, turn 6, 7, 8 in the game, you're at a point where you can't be passive generally. And this is not a passive card. I think this is a curve topper that's going to see play. What's your thoughts?
I'm a big fan of boss monsters in decks. Like the idea of the big boss monster coming down and wrecking the whole game, right? I like that a lot more than like a weenie rush strategy, right? I like playing this big thing that's just gonna wreck everything. And Luke he's a boss monster. He's gonna come down. He's gonna destroy one of your dudes just for entering play. Because if they get to 0 health from that -3 or the -6, that thing's gone. And then he has Restore 3. So every time he attacks, and he has 7 health, so he's going to stick around. Every time he attacks, he's going to heal 3 damage from your base. On top of that, there's like Luke's lightsaber is going to come down, it's going to heal him, and give him a shield. And it's going to be like a +3/+1 or whatever it is. So like, this is a really good boss monster for the game, I feel like.
Yeah, I think it's got to kill something. There's probably some situations where you give a 7 health unit -6 and then you clean it up with something else. So maybe it alley-oops the kill and doesn't do it entirely on its own. But my guess is that 10 times out of 10, the win played ability on this guy directly contributes to or outright kills something all on its own. And probably 9 times out of 10, it kills something entirely on its own and you don't even need the cleanup swing. If you're not playing it that way, like, I'm not really sure. I can't rate cards for bad play. Like, this guy has to come down and kill something. And then once he does, that's a threat your opponent has to address. And while they're dealing with your Luke, that's going to allow the rest of your board to push through and push that base damage. This is a very good curve topper.
if you would play blue Han, you could play Luke on turn 4. So if you have 5 resources, you use Han's ability to get to 6, deploy Han, attack, get to 7, and then you can play Luke on round 4. So your opponent, has like a partisan insurgent and an A-wing, and then boom, here's Luke Skywalker. So something to think about. You can cheat him out early in the right deck.
Truly crazy. Okay, move on to a 3-cost Vigilance Heroism affiliated upgrade. Jedi Lightsaber gives +3/+3, has to be attached to a non-vehicle unit, and if it is attached to a Force unit, it gains on attack, give the defender -2/-2 for the phase. So net, this is pay 3, give a unit a stat differential of +5/+5. Okay.
It's pretty insane.
That seems really good.
It's very good. This is kind of insane. This card. The +3/+3 and the -2/-2. I mean, even without the -2/-2, just a +3/+3 is very strong. So, like, I've thrown this on like R2D2, like just to see what would happen, and he never leaves the table, right? Because then you have a 4/7 R2D2, which is ridiculous. So this card's very good. It works very well with Luke. It works very well with, all the Jedi, right? Obi-Wan, Kanan, and Luke. This works really good with all of them. And the Luke leader, right? So
some of these units could be swinging like 2-3 slots up the curve with this kind of buff. Now, it's not the same as a unit, but with a unit, you can play it out to the board. By necessity, an upgrade does require you to jump through some hoops to get its full value. So you're going to need not only a unit, you're going to need to avoid vehicle units, and if you want full value, you're going to need specifically a Force unit. I just don't see any of that being a problem. Like, this seems like if you're on the colors where you can pay for this without having to pay any kind of aspect penalty, this is a very playable card. This is good.
Well, just in blue, right? This is a vigilance. So just in the vigilance aspect, you have Kanan, Yoda, Obi-Wan, and the Luke. So right there, if you're running 3 of each, that's 12 of your 50 cards. And then if you go yellow, you can add Ezra. So then you have 15 of your 50 that are Force units. So you can play this and get the full effect pretty consistently in a vigilance deck. And we're just going to get more Jedi. So,
you're paying 3 and you're getting a net effect of 5/5 on the stats. That's,
I think,
just crazy composite stat value.
I think a really good play for this, if you're playing like blue-red and you have Mace Windu, you play this on Mace because when he defeats a unit, he readies. Right? So he gets the +3/+3 and he's given everything he attacks the -2/-2. So you can just go and like machine gun down crap with Mace Windu.
That is one of my favorite things to do, is attack with the same unit over and over again and just beat down a whole board with one guy. That's
very
fun.
Satisfying. Yeah. So I think we agree this is a good upgrade.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous card. Probably, at a rare, I expect it to be something people are going to have to chase after a little bit. To move on to a common... Oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, we can move on, that's fine.
Okay, so to move on to something people are not going to chase after at all, a 2-cost Command Heroism affiliated Battle Marine. This is a ground unit. It's a 3/3. It's a 2-cost 3/3.
It's a guy. So for a 2-cost, the 3/3 stat line is slightly above like a curve, right? Slightly
it's
elevated.
Above the text box.
Yeah. There's no ability, but so Leia likes this card because it's a rebel. It's cheap. So she can action compact with it. Other than Leia, it's going to be awesome in Draft and Sealed because it's cheap and its stats are like 1 point above the 2-drop curve. So
I just hate these kind of cards.
You don't like
Like this
vanillas?
could be something. This could be something that does something. Instead, it's
Well,
just a grizzly bear.
wait
Like,
until wait until we get the Star Wars Unlimited version of High Evolutionary, right? That
okay.
buffs things with no abilities, right?
Yeah, unlocks their
So
secret powers. They'll have to
yeah.
errata this guy.
So in Dragon Ball Super, actually was it Kid Goku? There was a leader in Dragon Ball Super in like the first few years that played with vanillas that didn't with cards with no text box. I mean, maybe we get a leader that benefits from vanillas.
Yes. But like then look at that like gross catch 22 that we've set up for ourselves. Now, in order to facilitate this one card being good, we have to print a bunch of blank cards. Like a bunch of boring cards nobody wants to play. Like I want cards that have abilities. I just like I get okay. 3/3 is slightly above curve. I guess this card's ability is that it's like marginally better than other 2 drops. And because of that, it is gonna see play in sealed. Sure.
Mm.
Uh outside of limited, I'm tired of talking about this guy. We're moving on. That's how I feel about that guy. All right. The Avenger. This is a 9-cost vigilance, villainy affiliated space unit. It is an 8/8. When played and on attack, an opponent chooses a non-leader unit they control. Defeat that unit. Gross. What do you think about Avenger?
I think it's disgusting. I never want to see this enter play against me at all.
Never.
Like the thing is though, unless you're playing like a control mirror or like a control mid range game, I don't think you're gonna get to like turn 8 very often. Most games are ending like turn 6 or 7. You got to get to turn 8 to be able to even play this thing unless you're ramping with like
Yeah.
super laser. So like these big Star Destroyers that are 9 and 10 drop, like they're very scary, but you got to build specifically to get them out somehow. This
I mean,
thing
it
is
seems like that's what Command as a faction kind of wants to do is get
right.
out big fatties like 2-3 turns early. This thing is terrifying on turn 6. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely don't want to see this played against me. This card I think is very very good, and if it was any cheaper, um I think we might have a problem.
Yeah. If you're waiting to play this naturally just by getting to turn 8, it's probably not going to see play. Like this almost it's a good card for what you're paying. It gets to kill a thing unconditionally as soon as it comes into play. It doesn't care about your shields. That's awesome. It continues to kill a thing and maybe another thing when it gets to attack. So it does lots of good stuff, but at 9 cost, it's got to go into a deck with ramp, and that's going to make it a little bit more limited.
Yeah, you're basically shoehorning yourself into a command vigilance, right? Which isn't
You
bad, right?
probably
I mean, Krennic,
you might even feel bad opening
Tark.
this in like a sealed environment.
Yeah, the
Like
opening up these big cards like this, it's because you're probably never gonna play them. Although in a sealed draft environment, the decks aren't going to be as efficient. That you might get another round or two out of your average game in a sealed draft environment. So maybe you're okay with it in
maybe.
sealed draft because the decks aren't going to be as efficient.
I think I'd much rather see like a 4-cost legendary than this thing.
Or a Battlefield Marine.
I guess in draft it's probably not as punishing because you can kind of control what your card pool is going to be. In straight up sealed, yeah, this seems like a card that's not going to make your deck probably. I don't know. It does seem like I wanna play a card that says kill a thing when it comes into play. That seems good.
Yeah.
Okay, well let's move on to Cantina Bouncer. This is a 5-cost cunning ground unit. 3/5. When played, return a non-leader to its owner's hand. Yeah, I think if you're in double cunning, this is a 5-drop you probably play.
I mean, this is Waylay on a body. So Waylay costs 3. So really you're paying 2 for the 3/5. Right? Because you're getting the body and then you're getting the Waylay on top of it. So if you look at it that way, a 3/5 for 2 is very, very good. So yeah, I think if you're playing mono cunning, you're throwing this in.
Yeah,
No
this is a
reason not
payoff
to.
card for somebody who doubled down on cunning. I cannot see you throwing this into a deck that's not doubled down on cunning. Like at 7,
no,
this looks a lot less good.
Yeah, you're not paying the aspect penalty for this, I don't think.
No. Okay, Academy Training, 2 cost, command affiliated, upgrade, +2/+2. Big old blank text box. Yeah, I don't know about this one. What do you think?
Draft sealed. I don't think this sees playing a constructed deck.
I would rather have a 2 cost 2/2 body than this. Yeah, I feel like this is a card you end up with at the end of draft, like when only one card is going around. I'm very unimpressed with this. I don't think I like it. I don't like the art either.
I'm okay with the art. It's Rebels. I'm okay with it.
I'll let the art pass. I'll retract my criticism of the art. I don't like the rest of the cards still though. You can't talk me out of that, banana.
That's fine. I'm not gonna try, but I will say,
Fair enough.
It's not gonna play. No.
Okay, 6 cost, aggression affiliated, aggression and villainy affiliated space unit, Ruthless Raider. This is a 4/6. When played and when defeated, deal 2 damage to an enemy base and 2 damage to an enemy unit. So basically, it's like a 6 cost 6/6, but it gets to take 2 of that attack damage and put it into direct damage. I feel like that's a fair trade. Like I'll take a 4/6 if I get to shoot 2 damage straight into something, and then another 2 when it dies. Like so, you're kind of getting overall board impact of slightly above curve, but in a much better way than that other slightly above curve guy we talked about a few minutes ago. What are your thoughts on the Ruthless Raider?
I really like it, and it actually deals 4 damage when it's played because it just splits 2 and 2, 2 to the base and 2 to a unit. So you're getting, a whole extra swing out of it just for playing it and when it's defeated. It's just spread out a little bit. I really like Ruthless Raider. I really like it. It fits very nicely into Boba Fett with aggression. So then at the top of your curve, you have the fire spray, which comes in ready, and then you can later on pay to exhaust things. And now you have Ruthless Raider that can help with board control, can help finish off the enemy base, and yeah, 6 health on a space unit is no joke too.
Yeah,
I really like it. Vader decks also like it. Any red villainy deck likes it.
To stay on aggression for a moment, we have a 3 cost red 3 aggression heroism affiliated space unit.
Yes.
It's a 2/3 with raid 1, and each other friendly heroism unit gains raid 1. What do you think about red 3?
Got the soundboard cranking tonight. Red 3.
That was a long clip.
Yeah, I absolutely love red 3. It's cheap. It's a space unit. I love the space arena. It's a 3/3 on attack, and it gives everything else raid 1. Any heroism deck that has red in it, you're going to play red 3, and you're going to love it because it's buffing all your stuff. Leia, Rebel Swarm loves this. Sabine loves this, especially because she's already red, and all those heroism, everything she's running is red heroism units. So, and yellow heroism units, right? So, throwing Ezra in. This just enables all your dudes to swing up more than they should. Your opponent needs to take care of this immediately, I feel like, or they're in for a bad day.
Yeah, there's really no downside. If you play this on a naked board, and attack with it, it's a 3-cost 3/3, so it's like right on curve, totally acceptable stats. Uh, but if you have the other heroism units in play, it has almost like an infinite ceiling. Like the more units you have, the more value this 3-resource unit produces for you. It seems very strong. A good solid unit by itself with just a huge upside. Yeah, I like it a lot.
Thumbs
Uh,
up.
Scout by Pursuer is a 2-cost vigilance villainy affiliated ground unit, 1/4 grit. Uh, I guess Krennic likes this guy.
Yeah. Krennic likes him. That's great.
Yeah,
I don't have anything to say about this card.
yeah, it's not very exciting,
I mean,
but
Grit.
th-
Krennic. That's about it. Krennic. Maybe
it ju-
Iden.
like generally speaking, I'm not the hugest fan of effects where I have to damage my own guys to get the payoff. Like that can go wrong for me, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Uh I'm not saying that those effects are always bad, but they need to be like better than just good because they're asking in my like kind of a lot of you. Um I mean this guy can get kind of big if he gets 3 damage on him. That's a big attack on a 2-drop at that point. But now he's also super fragile. So I mean, I like durable threats. I'm not super impressed with grit. I get there's going to be specific synergies for this guy, but the art looks
If
cool. I do like the art. It's one of my favorite scenes in the original trilogy.
I'd almost rather him be like a 2/3 with Grit. Um, that one attack is just not appealing to me at all. Like,
It's pretty rough.
because I gotta,
I guess
then I gotta swing him into things to get the damage on him. Because if I'm playing against you and you drop this thing, I'm leaving it on the table. I don't give a crap about that one damage, you know? So you either got to buff that thing to make me deal with it, you got to give it Sentinel to make me deal with it, or I'm just going to ignore it because I do not care about that one damage off this dude, you know?
there there are villainy cards that have like ping your own guys payoffs. Like I mentioned, Krennic already. That's not the only one, although that's probably like he's the leader of the ping your own dudes. Uh, Set one strategy for now. But yeah, he's okay. I'm sure he'll find a home in certain decks that I'm not super excited to play. But I'm sure they're fine. I'm sure for the people who enjoy pinging their own dudes, I'm sure he's great. All right, let's take a look at a leader. We've got Iden Versio. This is a 6-cost ground unit. Well, I guess all the leaders are ground units. So on her undeployed side, she's vigilance, villainy affiliated, and has the tap action. If an enemy unit was defeated this phase, heal 1 damage from your base. With 6 resources, she could deploy. So a 6-cost 4/4 essentially. She comes into play with a shield, and when an enemy unit is defeated, heal 1 damage from your base. What do you think about this Imperial Trooper leader?
I'm not crazy about her. I'm glad she's in the game. Battlefield 2 campaign was really good. She was the main character in that campaign. So I'm glad she's in Star Wars Unlimited. I'm not crazy about everything else. The shield is good, but like a 4/4, like that shield, like Saboteur, like she's gonna get one shot by any aggression deck that is running precision fire, which we'll probably see in a little bit. I just feel like she's too easy to deal with when she deploys, even with the shield. I don't know. There's people that really like Iden so far in the community, and I guess I don't know, man. Like the 4 health is I'm not crazy about on a leader, right? Sabine, who comes out 2 rounds earlier, has 5 health, right? But is the shield worth that? I don't know. Like, I don't know.
No,
I guess I'm not sure.
I'm almost sure the answer is no. So I saw this character and I thought, wow, that art looks really cool. And I don't know who this character is. Now I'm not like the biggest Star Wars fan in the world, but I've been around. Like I've seen the holiday special. I know some things. Uh, and I thought like, okay, cool. Well, I'm gonna have to like go read a book or play a video game and figure out where this character's from. And then I read what this character did, and I said, you know what? Actually, I don't care. Uh, this ability is just not good. It if it didn't even say if it was just exhaust the leader and heal your base for 1. So it didn't even say the whole having to defeat an enemy unit thing. I would still say that's not good. Uh, but you have to kill a dude in order to heal 1? 1? No. 4/4. You have to wait till turn 6 to get a 4/4 with a shield. There is nothing about this card that I like other than the art. I think the art looks really cool.
I tend to agree. I want to like your more. There's people that do like it. I'm not seeing it.
No. Healing is just not a great effect. Especially not like when it's like the end. If there's incidental healing along the way as you're doing something else that helps you win the game, that's when healing's good. Like the restore ability on that Luke that we looked at earlier, that triggers when he attacks. Like that he's doing proactive stuff and the healing happens along the way. This is I'm using an action to exhaust my leader to heal for 1. How many turns is that not even going to be usable? That's just going to be a dead effect. You're going to have a blank leader. You're going to have a what was that other card we looked at? The 2 cost 3/3. That's your leader. No.
Basically, with
Unacceptable.
a shield.
Yeah. Very unimpressed. Like if you want to have a leader that's going to focus on healing, that's going to be their thing, it's got to be better than this. Um, I I guess this character's cool, so sorry, she looks very cool, but mechanically, I can't see anything defensible about this leader. I do not get it. Okay, 1 cost, aggression, heroism affiliated, ground unit, 2/2. Or sorry, Spec Force Soldier. He's a 2/2, and when played, a unit loses Sentinel for the phase. That's just rude. This is a tech card through and through.
Tech
If
card.
you're
Yeah.
if you're in a meta where you're worried about Sentinels and matchup, this is a sideboard card. Honestly, more than anything else. Like you probably don't run this, but then game 1 you see your opponent's rotten with Sentinels, you swap this thing in instead of some other higher value card just so you can rip the Sentinel off stuff. Yeah, it's a tool aggro decks need. It's fine.
Yeah. I like it for 1/2/2. Yeah. Leia likes him because he's a rebel, so she can drop him and then attack with 2 things, and that those things no longer have Sentinel. Yeah.
All right, another big fatty. 8 cost, Vigilance, Heroism affiliated space unit, Redemption. This is a 6/9. It has Sentinel, and when played, heal up to 8 total damage from any number of units and or bases, and then deal that much damage to this unit. I'd already popped off about heal spells. I don't think I want to spend 8 resources for this effect.
If for 8.
So I'll acknowledge there is a world where spending your entire turn to recruit this thing to the board and dump 8 points of healing into your base could win the game. Like 8 is a meaningful number that could definitely swing the game. That can happen. I do not think it's reasonable to rely on that happening. Like I think there's other choices you could be making in your deck before that to where you're not relying on recruiting an 8 cost 6/1 with Sentinel and hoping that the healing bails you out of a bad situation. I not super impressed with this guy.
Yeah, I'm not crazy about it either. I if he didn't have to deal the damage back to itself, I'd like it a little more, I think. If it was just an 8 cost 6/9 with Sentinel, I'd like that a little bit more, I think, than an 8 cost 6/9 that's going to deal
Well, I guess
damage
it
to
could.
itself.
It could
Yeah, you
just
don't have to
be
do
an
the
8
heal.
cost 6/9 with Sentinel. And yeah, you could just play it out. And in that case, I think it's too slow. So it's got this extra mode, this heal mode that sort of justifies this big walrus of a card at the top of your curve, but it justifies itself by making itself a bad unit. I don't think I can take that deal.
So, how about this? You're my
All
only
right, I'm
hope.
listening.
You're my only hope is that event we saw very early that allows you to look at the top card of your deck and you can play it at a reduced cost. And if you have 5 or
Mhm.
less health on your base, you can play it for free. Maybe some sort of You're My Only Hope combo deck where you're hoping to top deck Redemption to, play for like 4 instead of 8 or potentially for free. But
So let's imagine a world where the meta is like super, super aggressive. There's
mm-hmm.
lots and lots of aggro, and you want to play control.
Excuse me.
And you know you're going to have to survive a certain number of turns and be able to turn the corner. And you do the math, and the amount of damage the aggro decks are able to put out is always going to be larger than your base health unless you have a big healing card. Maybe this could be the card that lets you turn the corner and plant your feet and like outlast the gas tank on the aggro. Now, given the
Not
amount
for
of like card draw effects we've seen in aggression, I don't think this is it. I don't think it's going to get you there. Uh, but maybe that could be a place where you could play this big honking heel dork.
even in that world. I feel like aggro is gonna burn you down before you get to a turn where you can like hard play this if you're not cheating it out somehow.
Yeah.
And at that
Okay.
point, if you're trying to cheat this out, you're no longer a control deck, right? You're either a ramp deck or a combo deck, and if you're doing that, there's probably better options at the top end anyway.
I mean, maybe if you're on some kind of a ramp thing, you're playing slow enough that you need this to hang with aggression, but or there's a world where you just need X number of you need like a certain density of high cost cards in your deck for some other effect. Like there's something where like You're My Only Hope, you want to make sure that hits a big fatty every time. Maybe, but this is like a B tier fatty or worse. Yeah, I
Yeah.
I don't think I'm going to play this card. All right. 3 cost aggression, heroism affiliated event for a cause I believe in. Reveal the top 4 cards of your deck. For each heroism card revealed this way, deal 1 damage to an enemy base. Excuse me. You may discard any of the revealed cards and put the rest back on top of your deck in any order. That is ridiculous. That's I mean, this could be a door closer. You could win the game with this card. Uh, Pay 3, deal 4, straight to the base. This can be a curve fixer. Throw a bunch of crap you don't want to draw, like fix your top decks toward the mid to late game. This is exactly the kind of card that aggro decks want to see. This seems very playable, very strong. Admittedly, in the narrow heroism silo, I don't think you play this if your deck isn't going kind of like all in on heroism. I don't think you want to pay 3, flip this, and do 0 damage. That would feel pretty bad. So you do have to kind of build around it. It is asking a
Mm-hmm.
specific thing of you, but if you're in that silo of red heroism cards, you're playing this one.
Yeah, for sure. So I just did a video, uploaded it today called Solving Sabine, talking about how Sabine's kind of like the boogeyman currently. Very strong because they're cheap, fast, effective units. This is one of the cards in Sabine that you have to deal with. Because the thing that Sabine does really well is deals damage that you can do nothing about because she's not dealing it from units, right? Sometimes she is, but her ping and now this thing, you can't, unless you rip this event out of their hand, you can't prevent this damage. Very good. Very good card. Direct damage to the base is very good.
Essentially
this
4, which is a lot of reach.
yeah. Yeah, this is very good. Even if you get 3, like it's worth it because it's damage they can't do about it. You play unit to the board, your opponent has a chance to do something about that unit. You play this event, that opponent, I mean, I guess, give Iden 4 turns and removing 4 of my dudes, and then she mitigates this damage, right? But, yeah, really, really strong card.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Moving on to Keep Fighting. This is a 2-cost aggression event. Ready a unit with 3 or less power. In any other faction, I would probably crap on this card, but specifically within aggression, this is a faction that has a lot of paths that reward you for playing swarms of lower attack dudes, like lower cost guys. So getting multiple attacks out of a lower power unit is something that I think could have a home in aggression, but I'm pretty cool on this card overall. It paying 2, like if I'm going to attack with a unit more than once, I don't know that I want that that effect siloed onto a unit that for sure has a small amount of power.
So, here's the thing. This card's better than you're giving it credit for, and I'm going to convince you right now that it is. So, I'm going to look specifically at red and heroism right now. And think about the amount of raid you have access to. With red 3, even the partisan insurgent that can get raid 2 if you have another red card. So if you have red 3 and the partisan insurgent, both cards we previously looked at, that partisan insurgent now has raid 3. So now he's attacking for 4 on the attack, but his printed power is 3 or less, so you can ready him. Then if you have a card we're probably going to look at in a minute, Benthic 2 Tubes, his ability is when he attacks, he can give another red card raid 2 for the face. So now you have all these cards that are synergizing and buffing each other with raid, but their printed power is less than 3. This is where you play that on those dudes where they actually have like raid 6 right now. But since they have 3 or less power, I can ready them and do, 10 to 12 in Christmas land, I guess. But like in Sabine or even Leia Rebel Swarm, where you can have all these red heroism or just red units that have raid or giving each other raid and buffing each other, you can use Keep Fighting to get 8 damage pretty consistently off of Keep Fighting.
Sure.
So
Combine it with raid. Okay. I could see in those decks it being playable. How many different deck archetypes are going to circle around raid cards and then also have room for, like, once you have the raid combo set up to play this to be able to get double value out of it? I'm sure there's some. Still, little, like, how about thumbs medium? I'll give you a thumbs medium for this one.
I think right
As
now,
more
like,
raid cards come out, it
yeah,
will get better. I'll totally concede that.
I think I'm just so like in heroism and aggression right now, like you're probably looking at like Leia Rebel Swarm or Sabine, and you have like the Green Squadron A-Ring, which has raid 2, and then red 3 gives it raid 1, and then Benthic can give it raid 2, and that's not hard to do. That's 3 cards, and
So
you
now we're
can
up to
play
raid
those.
5.
Yeah, raid 5. So then you're and you can do that in the first 3 turns, like play those cards out and then have access. And if they don't deal with
I mean,
that A-Wing,
we are now talking about a 4-card combo? That is getting a
whatever.
little big.
There's other cards that give raid and stuff. So I
Sure.
mean, it's just one example of a way. And like Leia, when Leia herself has raid 1, I think this is if you're there's enough cards that have raid or give other things raid, where Keep Fighting is better than what it appears, because that 3 power does look very restrictive. But when you think about how raid works, it benefits those cards.
Totally fair. Right. Cartel Spacer, 2 cost, cunning and villainy affiliated space unit. It's a 2/3. When played, if you control another cunning unit, exhaust an enemy unit that costs 4 or less. That's pretty annoying.
It's
2
very
cost,
annoying.
2/3 in space. That seems fair. And then it has the upside of just deleting somebody's ability to attack with a 4 cost or less. Seems playable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's good. If you're running this, you're probably running a lot of other yellow cards, so I feel like this effect is more than likely going to be online when you're playing it. Very annoying to play against. I like it though.
I don't think you even feel bad running this out on turn 1. Like, okay, I'm not going to get the exhaust, but hey, now I'm in the space arena with a 2/3. Like, let's go. That doesn't seem that bad.
It's not bad at all.
Okay. Moving on to a 3 cost ground unit, cunning, Bodhi Rook. It's a 3/3. When played, look at an opponent's hand and discard a non-unit card from it. What do you think about Bodhi?
I like Bodhi as a control piece in cunning, especially into like aggro decks, or like, oh, I'm playing against Sabine and I know that there's 4 cards I believe in there, right? Being able to, this is how a way you can try to mitigate that damage by ripping those events out of their hand. Playing against a blue deck, you can rip a Jedi lightsaber. I think it's a good way to protect yourself, and a little bit of a control option for cunning. I like it. I like that he's an Imperial and a Rebel. For like, so like if you were playing like you would never do this, but if you were playing Tarkin in yellow and you played this dude, you'd have to pay 5 for him, but you could buff him, right? You would never do that, but there are synergies there with other cards like General Dodonna. If you're playing like a double yellow heroism or double yellow villainy, then he can get buffed 5 years. So he can be a 4/4, and he can get experience tokens from either the wing leader or the TIE fighter that gives experience tokens. So there is synergies there with him on both sides, which is, thematic for the character. And then good when played effect. You feel real bad though if it's full units, but then you still know what you still have the hand knowledge at that point. So
I don't think you feel bad in a cunning double down deck. Like, in that case, you got a 3 cost 3/3, which isn't like exciting, but you're not punished. You're at least getting what you paid for. If you pay an aspect penalty for this guy, I don't think you can. I just straight up, you cannot pay 5 for this guy and have a 5 cost 3/3 do nothing tempo loss. So I think he's only playable in a cunning double down. And in that case, it doesn't sting as bad if you, of course, you still want to hit, but it doesn't sting as bad if you miss as long as you're doubled down. And I just can't see a world where you're willing to play this guy. I I guess unless there's a very specific combo piece that you like, there's a combo deck in the meta and you just have to have a way to pick off that combo piece. Maybe you could pay 5 for that guy, but I don't think that's realistic. I think this guy is a reward for cunning double down, and that's about it.
yeah, there's a really fun double cunning Boba Fett deck on SWDB called the name of the deck is Sarlacc Bait. So I'd recommend everyone go check that one out. Published by some BananaCrapshoot dude. But it's a fun deck. Go check it out.
Maybe put a link in the show notes, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. Crafty Smuggler. This is a 2 cost cunning affiliated ground unit. He's a 2/2 with a shield. This is a draft card. It's fine.
I love this card. I absolutely love the artwork on this card. Like
I'll agree with that.
I love the artwork. The 2/2's fine. The shield on a 2/2 for 2, I like a lot more than a shield on my leader I'm going to deploy on turn 5 when I have 6 resources that has 4 health. I think this can see play in constructed decks if you're running yellow, because it's a way you can effectively trade with aggressive units that have low attack power and not a lot of health, and he can stay on the board that way. I definitely think we'll see play in draft and sealed, but I do think there is a place for him in some yellow constructed decks.
So one of my all-time favorite Hearthstone cards, at least going by play rate. I played a lot of Paladin in Hearthstone, and a staple card for many years of that game was the Shielded Minibot. 2 cost, 2/2 with Divine Shield. Basically exactly this card. This card is a Shielded Minibot. And that card, the reason it was so strong is because you were playing a unit that was on curve, but it was sticky. Because so you play this, you trade it into one of your opponent's units, their thing dies, your unit's still there, and next turn you're able to trade it into whatever they play next turn. So the shield facilitated getting 2-for-1s. This game has a lot of ping and has Saboteur. I'm not convinced that this is going to be as reliable of a 2 cost 2-for-1 as Shielded Minibot was in Hearthstone. In the situations, the game states where you are able to play this out, kill something and kill something else, and you're able to 2-for-1 in the early game with it, that's going to be awesome. The games where he gets saboteured, where it gets pinged off by incidental damage, and then you get one trade out of him, I think he looks a lot less good. But the meta and the cards that show up in the meta, I think are going to have a lot to say about whether this card ultimately ends up being a strong playable 2-drop or kind of like a limited staple, but not quite able to make its way into constructed.
That's fair.
I could certainly see a world where this is good, but I just see so much ping damage and saboteur and ways around shield. I'm not sure that shields in this game are going to be as impactful as divine shields in Hearthstone. But if they are, then this is very good. Then this is better than I'm giving it credit for now.
This might be my favorite
Okay.
artwork in the game. Just side note, I just drawn in.
I mean,
I'm fixated.
I have nothing bad to say about the art. I think the art on this one looks awesome. Okay, Volunteer Soldier. This is a 3 cost 2/3 with raid, and if you control a trooper unit, this unit costs 1 less to play. Have we seen any other units with no faction symbols?
This is the first neutral card we've seen.
Not very flashy.
Definitely not flashy. I mean, it's a Naboo guard, so maybe not.
I mean, I guess if you control a trooper, it's a 2 cost 2/3 with raid. So a 2 cost 3/3. That's as good as that blank guy that we saw earlier.
Yeah, it is.
Feels like a limited environment card though. Even in a trooper deck, I have to think you have better things you could do with 2 or 3 resources in constructed.
Yeah, because I'm trying to think, like, if you did like a Vader trooper deck, what would that look like? Right, you got cell block guards, you got Death Star stormtroopers, you got the First Legion stormtroopers, you got snowtrooper lieutenants. I'm trying to think, is there something that just buffs troopers, like on the Vader deck side? If so, I can see a spot
If we
for that.
haven't seen it yet, there probably will be once all the cards are revealed. It sure seems like there should be.
Yeah, if there's some sort of, just can't think. There's so many. Gotta think of all the cards. If there's some sort of straight up, yeah. So general tag, when played, he can give an experience token to up to 3 trooper units. A little bit of synergy there, but I have to imagine that, like, maybe in set 1, if you want to go heavy on a trooper deck, maybe. But I would have to imagine this gets phased out pretty quickly as new cards come out. But
I don't think you want to pay 3 for this.
I'm not unhappy and I'm not mad in draft or sealed if I end up with this card.
Yeah. I mean, if
because you
you
can
pay
play it in any
3
deck.
while attacking, it's a 3/3, which isn't like you're not being punished, but it's not great. So I think you want to pay 2 for this thing. And in that case, it looks okay. As long as you can get one other trooper in play, you jump through the small hoop it's asking you to jump through. It's okay. It's fine. All right, Jawa Scavenger. Say 1 cost cunning affiliated unit, 2/1 with Saboteur. And this is what I'm talking about. A 1 cost unit that just says, hey, shields don't matter. I think this sees play. It doesn't have to be that good. All it has to do is get rid of shields. And that is going to hurt any deck that tries to go heavy on shields. Saboteur also lets you ignore Sentinel, although I think that's less impactful. Like with a 2/1 stat line, this thing isn't going around like killing stuff, although it could sneak in for that last little bit of base damage. Um, I think the reason you play this, you run this thing out and use it to rip the shields off a target, and then the kill shot comes in on whatever that target is. How do you feel about the Jawas?
This card makes me so happy. The artwork is great on this card.
True.
Bunch of weenies, 1 cost, 2/1s with Saboteur. Like this card just makes me happy. I can't help but smile when I look at this card. How much play it's gonna see? It's probably gonna see play. I don't know if it'll be main deck, but I think you'll definitely see this in cunning side decks. If you're going up against a shielded, heavy shield deck or heavy sentinel deck, not sentinel as much like you said, but because of the 2 attack. But if you're going against like a Luke deck that you know is going to be trying to throw shields around, you're going to side this in. I feel like as a cheap way to deal with shields. But yeah, this card just makes me so happy.
All right. Vanguard Ace, 2 cost, space affiliated unit, or space affiliated, cunning and heroism affiliated space unit. It's a 1/1, and when played, for each other card you played this phase, give an experience token to this unit. That could be gross if you play it late, early in the game. It feels pretty weak. I'm not sure I know exactly what the home is for this.
This is Hit Monkey, right? Like that's what this is.
Yeah, kind of.
But that's a completely different game. So how many cards are you playing? So when this is good is going to be when you have like 6 or 7 resources and you're playing like you would play this as like a curve topper in a weenie rush deck, right? Where you have a bunch of like 1, 2, 3 cost dudes. You get up to like 6 or 7 resources for some reason, and you lose the game anyway. If this is what you're relying on to end the game, like I don't know. I'm out on this one.
I mean, I like the idea. I like the idea of a card that maybe you can play early. Like if this was a 2 cost 2/2, so you could play it early and not feel punished. But then if you top deck it late in the game, maybe you can do something so that it's not totally dead. But even if you hit this late in the game, if you don't have a grip full of cards, this is doing nothing for you. Like you have to chain into this thing. So is there going to be like a miracle deck where you're going to try to fill your hand and then play 100 cards a turn? I mean, if there's not, this thing doesn't have a home.
This thing does have a home, and it is my binder because it ain't leaving it.
Yeah, it's under my drinks. Uh,
I don't know if
all
it's
right.
coaster level, but it's definitely binder level.
Is it common? Let's see. Oh, it's an
It's
uncommon. Maybe
it's
I can't
uncommon.
put it under a drink. All right. Inferno 4. This is a 2 cost vigilance and villainy affiliated space unit. It is a 2/3. When played and when defeated, look at the top 2 cards of your deck, put any number of them on the bottom of your deck, and the rest on the top in any order. I like this effect. The stats are fair. Sure. What do you think?
Decent space unit. Nothing fancy, just some deck filtering. So
Yeah, I like Scry. I like it a lot. Del Miko? 3 cost vigilance villainy affiliated ground unit. He's a 3/3. Restore 1, and each event an opponent plays costs 1 more. Oh, that's so hateful.
How rude.
Yeah, he seems playable, and making events cost 1 more could be a big deal, especially in combo decks that need to chain a couple of things together in the same turn to try to pull off like a win condition or a big damage burst turn. Making each thing cost 1 more can push somebody off a turn, push them off 2 turns, and by that point, you can end up winning the game. That's a very mean. Now, in games where your opponent doesn't care about events, clearly this guy is less valuable. So maybe in competitive constructed, he might end up living more as kind of a sideboard card that comes in and out depending upon the matchup. But at a 3-cost 3/3 with Restore already, even if you don't get benefit off of punishing your opponent's event interaction, that still seems pretty okay all the way around. And that event disruption is gravy. I think that's pretty good. I think this is a playable card.
Do you know who Del Miko is? Or is this
No,
a
I
new
don't.
character? He's a part of that Iden Versio. She's the Inferno squad, is her squad. So in the campaign, he's a part of her team. Through
You
that
said that was
campaign.
Battlefront 2?
Battlefront 2, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I haven't played that game.
There is I think it's Dell has a pretty cool interaction with Luke Skywalker at one point. It's probably worth at least YouTubing that Del Miko Luke Skywalker interaction because I think it does a great job portraying like Luke Skywalker Jedi Knight, like after, because this is after Return of the Jedi. I think it's a cool interaction. But anyways, the card itself is fine. I really hate the artwork. As a person that was in the army and was in the infantry and had long range marksmanship training, there's so much wrong with how he's holding the firearm and all. I can't stand looking at the card. It just drives me nuts. So the card itself is good. I cannot stand looking at it. I really hope there's some sort of alt art for this so that I do not have to look at the standard art. Because like the art itself, it's drawn fine. Just looking at it drives me crazy.
I didn't
can't stand
notice it. I didn't notice it until you pointed it out. But it does look like somebody who's never held a gun in their life.
I don't know what either of his hands are doing. I don't know why he's looking back at it like he's trying to, look. I have no idea what is happening here, and I can't see him looking at it. So can we please move on?
Okay. So a couple of cards slipped through my setting up of the slideshow earlier today. So we're gonna hop onto SWODB to save the day to get these last couple cards that I realized as we were talking that I missed a couple of them. So this is one you mentioned Benthic Two Tubes earlier, and as soon as you said that name, I went, "Uh-oh, I'm pretty sure I forgot him," and I did.
It's all right.
Again, SWODB's here. So he's a 1-cost aggression affiliated ground unit. He's a 2/2 on attack. Another friendly aggression unit gains raid 2 for the phase. So we kind of talked about him already. Combo enabler certainly benefits from the okay event. Keep fighting. What do you think about his triggered discipline?
It's acceptable here. He's fine. He's in an active engagement. He's moving. He's the buttstock is actually against his shoulder. It's a lot better than Del Miko. About the card, I like the card. I like what it enables. It's very cheap, so a 2/2 for 1. It's a pretty solid stat line. And then the on attack is very good. Yeah, so he's just aggression, so you can play him in villainy decks or heroism decks. Yeah.
It does seem like one of those cards that has a bit of a target on his back. His effect, he's basically a 1-cost 2/2 if you don't have another aggression unit out there. So your opponent is going to have some things, some interactions they could do where they could exhaust down the unit that you gave the raid benefit to, or ping this guy off before he's able to attack. There is some interaction, and there are going to be use cases where he's just going to be a 1-cost 2/2, and he's probably not going to look great in those situations. But the upside of being a 1-cost 4/2, now I realize the raid doesn't go on him, but the net stats that he generates to the board, paying 1 to generate 4/2 worth of stats to the board, when that happens, it's probably a big enough tempo swing that it's worth it for the times when you play him out and he's, a 1-cost 2/2 and doesn't look as good.
Even those times where he's a 1-cost 2/2, if my opponent is worried about removing him, I probably win that trade-off. Because most of the time they're going to have to swing down in that scenario.
Mm-hmm. K2SO. So, spoiler alert, for anybody who hasn't seen Rogue One, I went to see Rogue One in the theater, and my son was very young at the time. And again, spoiler alert, when this robot died, I had to actually pick up my kid and walk out of the theater. He was so upset. He loved this character. 4-cost, aggression, heroism affiliated, 4/4. Right there, 4-cost 4/4. We're already off to a good start for this guy. Overwhelm, and when defeated for each opponent, choose one, either deal 3 damage to that player's base, or that player discards a card from their hand. There's a lot of things I like about this guy. 4-cost 4/4 is totally fine. I've said a few times as we looked at different cards, hey, this is something where even if you don't get the Rainbow Unicorn payoff, you at least don't feel punished. And this is another one where there's no punishment. You're getting a 4-cost 4/4 with Overwhelm is a totally valid play. And then whenever your opponent interacts with him, he has the defeated text. I think this is a very playable 4-cost card. How do you feel about K2SO?
I really, really, really like K2SO. 4-cost 4/4, the Overwhelm, right? If you're working on that aggression track, you're probably having raid with stuff like Red 3. So he's a 5/4 when he attacks with Overwhelm. And you get the Benthic Unicorn play, so he's a 7/4 with Overwhelm, right? Right there, we got it. 7/4 with Overwhelm. I'm going to take your lunch money and get ice cream with it. And then the when defeated is pretty solid. I think most of the time you're going to take the 3 damage. So he causes an issue for your opponent in a variety of ways. Because it's I do not want this thing attacking me with Overwhelm, so I probably want to take it out first, right? But to do that, then I'm going to take 3 damage. So it's how do you deal with it? I think you hope you are playing yellow and have a Christmas sleigh worth of exhaust effects in your sack to play on this dude. But yeah, I like him. I think he presents a lot of I think he presents a lot of issues for the opponent and how they want to deal with him benefits the K2SO player, I feel like.
Yeah, the times where somebody kills this guy and you look over at the one card they have in their hand and you go ahead and discard that. That is going to feel strong. I mean, sure, you're going to win games because this guy's going to get killed and then he's going to deal 3 damage to the base, and that's going to close it out some of the time. Both modes are good. I think this is a very playable card.
I think the Overwhelm plus the 3 damage off the when defeated is pretty crazy, because so you're either gonna swing down or you're gonna swing across with a buffed version, I feel like. And you're gonna get Overwhelmed. So not only are you defeating unit, but you're getting extra damage on the base. And then you get another extra packet of damage on the base. I really like K2SO. He's the top of my curve in Sabine Cunning. He's close to the top in the Leia Rebel deck. I think he's good.
Yeah, seems good. Attack Pattern Delta. This is a 3-cost double down command event. Give a friendly unit +3/+3 for the phase. Give another friendly unit +2/+2 for the phase, and give a third friendly unit +1/+1 +1 for the phase. So you're paying 3 and you're generating a total of 6/6 across 3 bodies. If you've got the bodies to cast this on, this is excellent.
Yeah. If you have the bodies, sure. It's going to be really good. I think we got to wait and see. I don't. The art's awesome on this, but
it's very vulnerable to counterplay because this card is a gigantic flare. You play this, and your opponent knows what your next 3 attacks are going to be. So if they have, oh, I forgot what it was, the card we started off with tonight. If they have the card that just exhausts everything in that arena, it's all wasted. So you
outmaneuver.
are
Yeah.
vulnerable to exhaustion effects after saying, hey, I've chosen attack pattern delta. I've invested my resources in this series of attacks. And if your opponent has disruption, this could be pay 3, do nothing. But sometimes you got to make them have it. Sometimes you just got to pay. And if they don't have it, then you get 6/6 worth of stats off a 3-cost card. It's not going to look great every time, but man, the potential value is definitely there.
Yeah, if you can pull it off, it's awesome. But how often it happens, I think we gotta wait and see.
I feel pretty bad to have a board with 2 units and draw this instead of a 3-drop.
Yeah.
So probably not a 3 of, even in the decks that can support it. All right, and finally we come to a 1-cost aggression affiliated event, Precision Fire. Attack with a unit, it gains Saboteur for this attack. If it's a trooper, it also gets +2 attack for this attack. Yeah, it's pretty good. Saboteur is a big deal. How do you feel about Precision Fire?
I like it. It's good. I think it's definitely going to see play. If not main deck, definitely sideboard, but I don't know if you're not running troopers why you wouldn't have it in your main deck. This dude also appears to be holding that rifle correctly. So bonus points for that. But yeah, cheap way to get Saboteur. Yeah.
Seems playable. It is funny to me that Stormtroopers, which are sort of famously mocked for having bad aim, appear on a card called Precision Fire, but
only Imperial Stormtroopers are so precise. That's what Obi-Wan said.
They say that, and then they never hit anything for the rest of the movies.
Yeah, everybody got plot armor. We have one listener question, and I think we'll wrap that one up tonight. Sound good?
Sounds
We're
great.
At like an hour and
what
43 minutes. Crap, where'd it go? I lost it now. Give me a second. It was about okay, what type of card do you most want to see revealed out of the remaining cards? So what's a card mechanic that you want to see introduced we haven't seen yet?
Probably my all-time favorite card in any card game ever is Soothsaying, which is an enchantment from Magic the Gathering. Costs 1, you get it into play, and then you can pay X on any turn, and then look at X number of cards on top of your deck and put them back in any order or throw them to the bottom. I am a gigantic fan of deck fixing, draw fixing effects. So some kind of I guess it'd have to be on a unit because we don't really have enchantments in Star Wars Unlimited, but some kind of an effect that, a base. I want a base. Give me a 20 health base that lets me pay resources to scry the top of my deck. I still have a hard time calling it scry because when I originally played Magic, they hadn't named that keyword yet. It was just look at cards on the top and put them to the top and bottom in any order. That's the effect I most want to see. That's like my favorite effect in any card game. I love being able to stack my deck. How about you? What mechanic do you want to see?
I think I want to see a dude that gets a payoff from sacrificing your other dudes. Like, you see that in a bunch of other games, right? Something where you get payoff for sacrificing your dudes or that's what I'm going to go with. Like, kind of thing like Venom in Marvel Snap, right? He gets bigger when he eats his dudes, or like there's Black black cards in Magic the Gathering that kind of do that. That you sacrifice units to make other things stronger. So I'd like to see something like that. So,
Sure.
yeah.
I like killing my own things.
Yeah. Sometimes it works. Do you have any other closing remarks?
Not really. I actually said earlier in the show I specifically don't like killing my own things. Sorry, what'd you say there, man?
Do you have any other closing thoughts before we sign off for the last time in 2023?
I think we had a great year. You know, good start to the game. I like that our predictions, without communicating with each other and deciding we were going to do this, we both had, you know, optimistic, positive predictions about where we think the game's headed, where we think the community's headed. Um, and I mean, it sounds so corny, but like, oh, it fills me with joy to see the community. But it does. Like, I love this stuff. Like, the real world is full of like dark and sad and difficult things, and adulthood, work, being a parent, like all this stuff is like heavy. So to be able to have these games and solve these puzzles in a competitive environment like brings a lot of joy to my life, and I just can't wait until we're able to play these games and solve these puzzles in the competitive environment of Star Wars Unlimited next year. Very much looking forward to it. So you know, happy holidays, whatever you and your family celebrates. I hope you have the best one of those that you can, and looking forward to closing out a year strong. How about you, man? What do you feel about 2023?
I'm happy. You know, my kids are healthy. I have a house with a roof, right? I have a vehicle that works. So, all in all, I'm good. Decent year. Excited for the future of Star Wars Unlimited. One thing I did want to say publicly on the podcast is I wanted to congratulate you on a big milestone on your Versus System 2 PCG podcast, The Build Phase. You went over 400 episodes and just released your 401st podcast episode yesterday. So I'm guessing that took a little over 8 years to get to.
Just under.
Just under 8 years? So right around 8 years.
Yeah.
So that's a huge accomplishment. So congrats
Thank
on
you,
that.
man.
The longevity
You started saying congratulations for you, and I was thinking like, what have I done? What?
Yeah. So just want to throw that out there. So congrats on 401 episodes of the Build Phase podcast. You know, 8 years trying to help people build a better turn. So stalwart in that community. Can't imagine the amount of hours that that takes, you know.
I actually looked to see if my podcast app would give me that stat, like the total number of hours of shows that I had uploaded. And if it's there, I couldn't find it, or I lost interest before I found it. But it's a lot, man.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how many of those 401 episodes are over an hour, but it's a substantial number of them.
Yeah. All right. Well, I think that'll do it for this one of the Space Arena Ground Arena podcast. So until next time, we will see you in the arenas.